Hey everybody, I'm Zach. And I'm Jesse, and you're watching the Patreon bonus stories. Let's start out with a fun one this week. I know that we've been getting a little hot and heavy and upset and mad about stuff.
Which we will later, but let's have fun. Yeah, you remember Randy Popst.
Mm-hmm.
He raced against us on our team when we raced against in 2020 Pikes Peak. We won, by the way. We won, but Randy is an amazing driver. And he is driving two of the quickest production sedans out there. I'm talking about the Cadillac GTS and the BMW M5. Oh, and there's one other car he drives. I can't remember. It's called the it's electric and it's really fast.
Yeah, the Tesla Model S Plaid.
Yeah. So check this out. This is cool. He splits the screen in three, as we're seeing right here. You're seeing him driving the Tesla in the middle and the Cadillac and the M5 on the other sides. This is the same race course. This is the Willow Springs race course. And these are four-door sedans, keep in mind. Mm-hmm. These are production models. And let's see what happens.
Feels really racy for a big luxury sedan. Fantastic. Come on. I don't trust the brakes. Does not stop like the Cadillac. There's that old oversteer. 4. Now chuck it in. Early power. Good exit. Car's full of brake pad smell. Boy, when it goes, I'll tell you that. Come on down, baby. Come on. Little push. Woo! Come on, get on. Move it. That's it.
So, I don't know if anyone was really that surprised that the Plaid won.
Did you notice, though, if you look really carefully at the video, you might need to go back and do this, but look really carefully at the speedometer of the three. As Randy is coming out of curves especially, so all cars have to slow down when you hit a curve. It's all up to just tires at that point and weight and so forth. As you're coming out of a turn and you accelerate to get out as fast as possible, look at those numbers. In almost every case, if you could possibly see two numbers at once, you're seeing the Tesla go about 10 miles an hour faster out of the turns. Right. That's incredible because on a windy race course, there's tons of turns you have to slow down for, and there's tons of turns you have to speed out of. And every single time, he's faster out of those turns. And you can see that milliseconds make a difference.
Yep. And yeah, so the Model S Plaid was fastest, but it doesn't have track mode yet. So, I mean, let's just take a step back. The Model 3 Performance, you can get it with track mode. And track mode allows you to change some of the settings of the car to make it respond better to what you want.
And it's not a gimmick. I mean, I thought in the beginning, like, oh, it's just a gimmick. It's not. For people who race cars and know what they're doing, you need to have better control over, do you want the rear end to give you more power? Do you want, and so forth. This allows you to do that. What surprised me was they've already written the software for the Model 3.
Right.
I know it's not the same car. I know it has 3 motors.
Oh, it would have to be tuned.
Right.
And maybe they're doing that.
I'm sure they're doing that, but I can't believe they released the Plaid without having it ready, because if I just spent $130,000 on a Plaid, I'm going to want that. And I'm going to make videos and I'm going to show that off. And if it doesn't have track mode, you're missing an opportunity.
Well, here's the thing though. They don't need it. We just have proven, Randy has proven, I didn't drive it. Randy's just proven that you don't need track mode. And so what Tesla can now do is whenever there is some other car, some upstart car that thinks that they can beat them in a race, all Tesla has to do is say, oh, we got beaten by that car. Here's track mode. And everyone's going to go, what? Excuse me? And so, oh yeah, those people that spent $150,000 on their car, we're either going to give them track mode for free or that we're going to make them pay another $10,000 for it because they can, let's face it.
They could.
And
I think they should give it for free, but
I do too, but I don't know, maybe you don't, because these are rich people and what's another $10,000 a few months later. And they really, really want it because then they have the best. I think that's what the Plaid is there for. So whatever, either way, now you're back on top. So, oh, it looked like, and these are the same cars. What other car company can do that? Oh, we released a software update. Now the car's faster.
I'm really interested to see what track mode can do. I mean, that's just giving you a whole lot of new tools.
It's true. And especially with the tri-motor, there is a heck of a lot more you can do with the tri-motor, because having two independent motors on the rear, all they could do before was like brake one side to like do a little bit of not torque vectoring, but to do like stability control. Now you could do some real torque vectoring stuff.
Yeah.
And that might be why it's taking longer, but
that's true.
It's very, very exciting.
It is exciting. All right. So if you're wondering why we were so negative about COP26 this year, if you're wondering why I think COP26 failed, I think there's no better way to show that than by watching this 3-minute video. So take it away, Professor Michael Mann and Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Barnaby Joyce. They square off, and I think this 3 minutes gets to the heart of why many politicians don't want to do anything regarding the climate crisis. Here you go.
Why do you think Scott Morrison didn't want to hear from the experts? Do you think part of his misstep is his belief system, that, you know, he just doesn't believe in climate change?
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think that's, you know, I think that's, he believes that Australia's got to do its part, and it is doing its part.
In all fairness, Barnaby, Scott Morrison and his government have played a destructive role in global negotiations to act on climate. They have literally dismissed the connection between climate change and these unprecedented bushfires that we're experiencing. And the scientific community has spoken authoritatively on this matter.
Barnaby, do you accept that these fires have been driven by climate change?
I absolutely accept that, you know, we've had a massive change in the climate. I can see it in my own area. That is not my argument. My argument is one of immediate efficacy. We're going to put back in our fire breaks. We're going to make sure we build central watering points, that no truck has to travel more than 20 kilometres. These are the things that I want to concentrate on.
You can't solve a problem if you refuse to accept the cause of the problem.
We have complied with our international agreements. Now, the second thing I want to take...
No, that's not true.
We have.
No, through an accounting trick, but anyways.
Well, coal is Australia's biggest export, between coal and iron ore. And therefore, the money that comes from that, whether you like it or not, supports our hospitals, our schools, our defence force. You've got to say to the Australian people, we're going to get rid of that income stream, and you've got to accept that this money is not going to turn up. That is the price. Are you willing to pay it? And I'll tell you what happens in politics if you do that, you'll lose the election.
But Barnaby, are we actually overstating the wealth of coal to this country? I mean, it's 2.2% of the GDP.
It's our biggest export.
0.4% of the population.
How about the hundreds of millions of dollars being lost in tourism, the damage that's being done by these unprecedented bushfires? The cost of climate inaction far outweighs the modest cost of taking action.
Well, I think we're going to this sort of global point, and
it's true here in Australia.
Okay.
This is the front lines of climate change impacts.
Are you saying that if Australia changes its domestic policies, the climate will change? This idea that Australia unilaterally will make a decision that's going to change the climate is absurd.
What I'm saying is, if you want to talk about the small number of state actors that are basically sabotaging climate action for the entire planet, you can count them on the fingers of your hand. It's Saudi Arabia, it's Russia, it's the United States, Brazil, and does Australia want to be part of that family?
If you want to sell this program, you got to say to them, how are you going to make their lives more affordable and put dignity back into their lives? Because that is the reality of the person.
What dignity have you got, Barnaby, when you are standing in the middle of rubble and saying, how on earth did this fire happen? What's driving this? What's the head of the serpent? And it's climate change.
Yeah,
but the people of this country want the politicians to step up. I mean, it is the existential issue that the public have raised. And it defeats me as to why you won't step up to it. So we've lost a decade. We need to get to work. Ross Garnaut said so. He's right. All the predictions, damn it, have turned out to be right.
Well, I mentioned...
Actually, no, they've been wrong. In many respects, things are worse than we predicted just a decade ago.
Yeah. Politicians don't see any political cover for making the hard decisions. And this is where you come in. You need to tell your elected officials, and I'm like, Zach's telling us to do something again. Yeah, I am, because we're here on this planet. We might as well do something while we're here. Tell your elected officials that the climate comes first. It's just that simple. If we don't have a habitable planet, then every other thing doesn't matter.
Right.
Now, I know it's a hard reality. You're damn right it is. I don't want to have to come on the show every week and relay the bad news, but it is the reality. We need to stand up for what's right, not for me, but for the next generations. Now, if you need a little bit of comedic break from this, let's go to this video, which says the same thing, but in a fun way.
Hello, I'm from the government with an update on how we're handling the climate crisis. We know you're all counting on us to solve this problem so humanity can keep enjoying its favorite pastime, continuing to live on this planet. But you see, we've realized that we are the problem. And so, how shall we put this? We're actually going to get us all killed. Look at this graph shaped like a penis because it shows how we are. This is where we are now. And as we can see, it's already pretty with massive fires, floods, heat waves, locusts, bullshit. This is what scientists call the stop here or we're point. And this is where we're currently headed, or as scientists call it, net by 2050. The good news is we've promised to reduce our emissions. And if you take all our promises and add them together, that puts us on track for still very much by 2050. And that's if we keep our promises. A big if, since some of our biggest promises are being coke-blocked by corporate coal shills, while others are nothing more than blah blah blah, or a plan printed on a pamphlet. Pamphlet? Our promises and pamphlets are also based on the hope that we'll offset our emissions with technologies which don't work or even exist, or with technologies that do work and exist, like trees. Except trees need time to grow, which we don't have, and space, which we also don't have. Plus, trees can burn, which seems to happen a lot these days due to climate change. And when they do, they release all that carbon they captured, which means the only way we can keep our promises is to stop emitting carbon. Are we doing that? God, no. We've been subsidizing it at a rate of $11 million per minute, which discourages investment in renewables by distorting the market. And that's why there's a huge gap between our promises and where we need to be. We don't talk about that gap because that would entail a complex process called being honest. Being honest would mean admitting that we're failing. And we can't do that because then we'd have to stop failing. That would mean ending fossil fuel subsidies and banning all new gas, coal and oil projects. And to anyone suggesting harming our precious children like that, we say, how dare you? So being honest isn't an option for us, which is why we've come up with the next best alternative. Net zero by 2050. Net zero by 2050 means that instead of being honest this decade by taking this path, we leave the being honest part to the last minute by taking that path instead. As you can see, both lead to net zero in 2050, but they're very different journeys, because this path adds this many emissions to the atmosphere, and that one adds 3 times as much. And since emissions are what's causing the planet to warm, that means crossing the stop here or we're point, which risks setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond our control. That's the exciting part of running an experiment with the only planet we know that supports life in the whole universe, just so we can make a few billionaires even richer. Net zero by 2050. Anywho, feel free to take over from us at any time, because as you can see, we're captured by the fossil fuel industry, compromised by our moral failings and lack of vision, and probably going to get us all killed. This has been a message from your local government franchise. Goodbye.
Authorized by the Department for blah blah blah.
So go subscribe to the Juice Media. They always put out like content that I'm always like I wish I could.
I love that Greta was at the end of the video.
Yes.
Like, that's just fantastic.
And they knocked it right out of the park. And it really does show that graph at the end really does show why net zero by whatever is a whole bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's just greenwashing.
It's such greenwashing, and they're not even going to hit it.
No,
like they're like,
not.
here's our plan. We're gonna do nothing, and then we'll stop.
Right. No, they
that
won't.
doesn't happen. It's going to
doesn't
go.
happen.
Oh, it's
We missed
hard.
it.
We figured. We actually
2070.
2075 would be great.
3,000. We'll hit it in 3,000.
We'll hit it in the year 2200.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. We can't live on half of the world's habitable land. It's no longer. It's all arid.
Sorry.
Oops. That whole city was flooded by a giant hurricane, and 1 million people died. Oops. Oh well. Get them next time.
But here's a story about something you can do. I know that you hear me say, like, contact your elected officials. You should. But there's other things you can do. This is an inspiring story about EVs and solar. So this little French town of Virouge-Termenay, I think I said it right, had a problem a few years ago. It was kind of far from supermarkets. This is just a little hamlet, in the middle of France. It has about 130 older residents. So the mayor at the time, Philippe Brûlé, proposed that the EU help them buy a Renault Zoe and that they rented out for about $8 for each half day to their residents. So 2 years ago, the EU ends up paying for half of it, and they've been using it ever since. And they plug it into a solar-powered canopy, so it's a solar-powered car. Now, I hear a lot of you Americans especially watching, they're probably thinking right now, Europeans, socialist governments, is spending money on crap. But hang on. Isn't this what governments are supposed to do? They already spend money. Like, they buy things, they buy jets, and they buy tanks, and they buy all sorts of things. Aren't they supposed to provide for their people? So having the EU look at this proposal and go, sounds okay, great, we'll pay for half of it, made this possible. And now all these residents of this town, if they need to get to the supermarket, which is like 10 kilometers away, they can hop in an EV, so it's quiet, it's not polluting, they can get there and get back. And how awesome is it that not each of them has to have their own damn car? This goes to what I think is going to happen in the future with robotaxis, because I think in just the next few years, they'll take a robotaxi to the supermarket, or they'll have their Tesla bot do it for them. These are the things you can do. If you live in a town or city, you can contact your elected officials with an idea, and you can tell them, hey, this makes a lot of sense. Are they going to listen to you the first time? Probably not. You're probably going to have to write a lot of letters, go to a lot of meetings. But if you care about it enough, you can change things. That's my little PSA for this week. When you're watching the news, do you ever wish that you could get like a follow-up on stories? You know, like they'll tell you like, this week a politician goes to jail. And then like a few weeks later, you're like, whatever happened to that politician?
Okay.
Right? And they never follow up.
Right.
Right?
No.
Same thing here. Remember a couple years ago, we talked about this company. It's called Gatik, and they are a autonomous truck company in Arkansas. And I remember at the time thinking, let's not forget about this, because like, what's going to happen in a couple of years? Well, it's been a couple of years. Let's go check out the story right from the source. Bentonville's finest.
If you've seen delivery trucks driving around in Bentonville without a person behind the wheel, you aren't seeing things. 5 News reporter Catherine Gilker tells us about these Walmart delivery trucks and the technology behind them.
There are 2 delivery trucks without drivers that run routes from a Walmart fulfillment center on Dodson in Bentonville to this Walmart neighborhood market on Southwest Regional Airport Boulevard, less than 2 miles away. These driverless trucks are carrying customers' orders that are picked up here throughout the day.
The whole idea here is operating these trucks back and forth on fixed, repeatable routes, and by doing so, we can constrain the autonomy problem.
This is a Gatik self-driving truck. The company has been operating in Northwest Arkansas with a safety driver on board since 2017. This August is when they went driverless. Co-founder and CEO Gautam Narang says they founded the company during a time when companies were focusing on driverless personal transportation.
I'm excited and proud to share that, today we have validated that vision. We have achieved that milestone. Gatik is fully driverless today. To my knowledge, we are the first and the only company doing this in a commercial capacity with our partner Walmart.
The multi-temperature box trucks operate up to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Narang says the trucks can handle trips up to 300 miles. He says their technology focuses on complex urban scenarios, traffic lights, intersections, and pedestrians. And he says safety is front and center of everything they do.
Today we have a 100% safety record, based on all our operations across different markets. In this particular case, this is the route that we have been operating on for the last 2.5 years. Since the very first day we started operations, we engaged all the local stakeholders.
The trucks also operate with safety drivers in Louisiana and Texas. With the driver shortage being felt nationwide, Narang says their trucks can help with that issue while creating new jobs.
From here, we will be expanding our fully driverless operations to bigger routes, bigger platforms as well. As a company, we are in growth and expansion mode. We believe we have all the key components in place, all the right partnerships in place for us to be scaling and growing from here.
I reached out to the Bentonville Police Department for comment on these driverless trucks, but they were unable to go on camera. They did tell me that they do not have any concerns about these driverless trucks or the other drivers on the roads. In Bentonville, covering news where you live, Catherine Gilker, 5 News.
All right, so we get this update on what's going on with the company. They're still doing it. Now they're actually doing it driverless. I think before when we first told the story, there was like safety drivers. Now they're completely driverless. Now, it's a very specific route. as you heard from the CEO there, they've taken all the variables out of it. Like I bet there's not even like cats allowed on the road. So like it's pretty safe. They put a ton of LiDARs on it. It goes really slowly. But it has been working. And now they're expanding to other markets. Now, the CEO mentioned that there's a driver shortage. And my first question is, does this help solve it? I mean, those particular trucks don't have humans in them. So I guess you could argue it helps.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting concept. And I think that basically if you were to focus and think of other applications for it, I think that it is possible to expand it.
I think that this is good because in the average American's mind, if they keep hearing stories like this, they will start to be like, oh no, we're in the future.
Right.
Like this is maybe more real than I thought it was. And so it's kind of like,
it's baby steps.
It's baby steps. It's not like turning the heat up on the pot to a full boil. It's just like simmer, and it lets you just kind of get used to the warm water and
So
go
it's
like,
the frog
it's
and
the
the-
frog thing. You know, it's like they're not going to hop out. But my other question is limiting the autonomy like this a really smart, or is it a crutch? I mean, putting all this LiDAR on there, going that slow, having a very limited route, is that great because you've limited all the things that could go wrong? Or are you basically just making it so that autonomy only works when you get all those factors taken care of?
From the perspective of the company, I'm going to ignore that. Whatever. From the perspective of autonomy as a whole, I think it's a positive, again, because of the baby steps. I think that culturally, people need a little bit of a nudge here and there just to kind of get them, moving in the right direction. This is like, I don't know why I'm thinking of like pin the tail on the donkey, but I feel like most people have their, okay, and they've just been spun around by the media and they go, okay, I'm going to where I think the world's going. And sometimes you need a little nudge to move them away from the, fireplace. And
this is kind of what I want to get at here is we've been talking a lot, Jesse and I, about how one of the biggest dangers confronting us right now are stupid people. And I hate to put it bluntly, but it's kind of true. There's this idea that either you're evil or you're good. And I think Jesse's really kind of pushed me in more of the direction of either you're smart or you're stupid. I think that there's so many people in the world today that think they're smart because they watch the news, and they're getting the news. And so I must be smart, when in fact, they're not really getting valuable information. They're not thinking independently. They're not thinking critically. And yet
you should be changing your mind about stuff.
Yes.
Like on the daily. I really do believe that. I think that you should be teetering right here on the fence, and you should be going between like yes and no about a particular thing. And people hate this, right?
Exactly.
They don't like it. They flip-flop. That guy is a flip-flopper. He changed his mind about something. How dare you?
Right.
You have to be a one-trick pony going down a straight rail of going in one direction. How dare you change that? How dare you think differently? It's not feasible.
How does science work? Okay.
Exactly.
Science works that you come up with a hypothesis, you test it. Oh, it was wrong.
You don't test it like, oh, I think that this glass is solid. Yep.
Right.
I did it. I go, how can I disprove my theory?
Right.
Because if you can disprove your theory, great. Now you know that your theory was wrong.
Well, and that's the thing. So we don't teach science, real science.
Right.
And so all these people don't know what science is. Science has gotten us to where we are today.
Right. And the very intelligent people have done this, but then the problem is you go to the general public and you say, here's the science we did. And everyone goes, straight line, that must be science. So if I wanted to do the same thing, I would do my test in a particular way. I know I'm getting way off track here, but it's all about, challenging your perspectives. It's all about listening to intelligent people and questioning them.
Okay,
and going,
so-
are you sure? Are you right? Let me do my own math. Why is my math wrong? Go take it to a smart person. Why do you think my math is wrong? And then they say, well, because you forgot that thing. And I go, oh, I did forget that thing.
So I think that fits this story really well. This next story, I think, should be filed under be careful who you vote for. So remember that most elected officials, they have the power to do much more than you think. They can hire other people, staff, but also commissioners, committee members, heads of departments. And those people may easily outlast the elected official that you elected. And those people that they put in place will be very hard to remove from office because you don't know who they are. Take, for example, Brendan Carr. He was appointed by Trump to the FCC. And here's what he tweeted lately.
I've seen Terminator. I've seen iRobot. I know how this ends. That's why I'm hereby proposing a new rule. If your robot dog is too large to kick over in case of emergency, it's banned.
So that got some people worried. Tom Lahoney tweeted out, totally inappropriate for an FCC commissioner to issue a comment like this. If you want to propose things totally out of your range of expertise, you should resign from FCC and run for public office where you can say stupid things. Also, ask the military and the police that use these. But Brendan said,
having watched Terminator, just by the way, a fictional movie, I can assure you I have the requisite qualifications to propose this rule, and I will not cotton to those credentials being questioned.
But Tom went on to question him. He said, because you watched Terminator, really? Not a solid source for knowing what you're talking about. Maybe you should visit the manufacturing in Boston and get real information. Maybe read some IEEE publications about robotics. Watching a movie just can't qualify you.
Brendan Carr says, listen, if Terminator doesn't qualify me to propose this rule, then watching iRobot certainly does. I'm also starting to suspect that your account may be a burner account for a robot dog that has gone sentient, in which case that's enough cause to accelerate the rulemaking coming from a person in our U.S. government of the United States of America.
But hang on, Brendan kept going because Brendan Schulman tweeted, by the way, Brendan Schulman works for Boston Dynamics. He said, Commissioner Carr, our robot's top speed is 3.6 miles per hour. You can easily outwalk it. And the round red button on the back instantly disables its motors. I would welcome an informative discussion about any concerns. But
well, that was a very reasonable, polite,
but don't you think Brendan Carr's response was also, look at his response. What does he say?
In Walking Dead, the zombies don't move very fast either. They walk. It's right there in the title. But notice how they're always right on your heels nonetheless. The speed limit is a cold comfort. This guy is so smart. He watches so much TV.
Yeah, I know, it's good research.
That is great research. I didn't know that I could become an expert in something just by watching a movie where no experts are consulted in it.
You know what's scary? I researched his background. He's pretty smart if you look on paper because he went to Georgetown Law School and stuff. But when it comes to the FCC, he really shouldn't be there because he basically was an assistant to someone on the FCC for a couple of years. And then Trump was just like probably looking around for someone who is a good, like, he'll follow orders and appointed him. Now, do I know who's appointed to the FCC at any given moment? No. There's just way too much going on in the world to follow this stuff. So you have to trust your elected officials to make smart choices. In this case, look, from these 4 tweets, can't you tell he's not the kind of guy you should put in charge of the FCC?
You know what? I think that I have something to admit. I think that I should kind of step down because I have not seen the movie iRobot. I have read the book, but I didn't see the movie. So I think that I should probably
you shouldn't be on YouTube,
recuse myself from this conversation because clearly I do not know anything. Oh, I don't know enough to be speaking about.
Can
this.
I also admit some things while we're admitting?
Okay.
I have not seen all the Terminator movies.
Are you kidding me? You haven't seen like the last one where they CGI'd? That's very important. The CGI that they did to remake young Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Terminator.
So I don't know either.
Very pivotal to the research that he's been doing.
And also, can I just also admit, I was a big Walking Dead fan, but then it got really horrible, so I stopped watching the last couple seasons.
That's where all the good stuff is.
And
they're always on their heels. That's an important point.
Right. I love zombies, by the way. And I mean, his point about them being slow, great point. I mean,
sure.
You could argue that, the 3.6 miles an hour isn't the only thing. But yeah, the big red button, I mean, zombies, as far as I know, I haven't watched all the episodes, but I don't think they have a big red button on them.
Well, listen, I have watched The Walking Dead. They kind of do have a big red button, which is their forehead. You do need a screwdriver or something to
Right.
But I'm just...
So here's the thing. This is, look,
what
if we were talking to like a 5-year-old, be one thing. This guy's acting like a 5-year-old. These are arguments you'd hear from a child.
This is like, I wish that we hadn't told you this. I wish that I had made up a pretend thing, and I was like, I made a pretend thing, and it's a joke, and it's very funny. And then I would go, actually, this is real life, and you wouldn't.
Well, you know what else is funny? Why did he tweet it? Like, it's one thing if he thought that, like, I'm an expert because I watch these movies.
Yeah,
but wouldn't you have
you're-
the brains to go, but I shouldn't say this out loud?
You can say it out loud, like in a meeting, but like to tweet it to where anyone in the world.
He was legal counsel for the FCC. Like, he was the lawyer for the FCC for like 3 or 4 years.
Well, maybe you know what? Maybe he saw the movie Legally Blonde. You thought about that? Huh?
He probably saw a whole bunch of legal movies.
I think I could be a lot of different things. If all you need to do is watch a bunch of movies, I could be the president.
I could be a genius. I just watched Good Will Hunting.
Exactly. I could be the president of the United States in the case of a horrible alien invasion.
Independence Day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, I would probably be able to cause peace in the Middle East.
Brendan Carr can do that
remember
too.
that?
He's seen it. Yep.
I'm just saying.
Yep.
Wow. I didn't know it was this easy.
I didn't know it was this bad. Like, I mean, I knew that Trump appointed some stupid people, and we've been bumping into them in terms of the NHTSA and so forth. But like,
and Biden's been appointing some pretty stupid people
all of them
as well.
do. Like, I don't even want to pick. Like, yeah, it's just like these are people that actually make decisions that affect our lives. Like the FCC. If you're in another country, you might not know what this is. The Federal Communications Commission. Very important. It controls our airwaves. It controls cell phone airwaves. It controls all sorts of things. These are the nitwits who are in charge of it?
These are the people who are basically preventing airplanes from falling out of the freaking sky.
Well, that's FAA.
No. FCC regulates the airwaves.
Oh, true.
If air traffic controllers couldn't communicate using
that's a
radio
good point.
waves to planes,
That's a good point.
there would be like if tomorrow just all the radios stopped working, there would be so many horrible things.
You're okay. He's seen Airplane 1 and 2. So you're good. All right, let's move on to this. This is a video you're watching right now of Goodyear. This is a video they released of them testing an airless tire on the Tesla Model 3. Everyone's blown up about it. Everyone's talking about it. Have you seen this? Guys, Teslas are all going to have airless tires. Yes, I think someday down the road they will, but this is Goodyear testing them at their Akron proving grounds. Now, during the testing, the car hit speeds of 55 miles an hour. Goodyear says that they successfully tested the durability testing speeds up to 100 miles an hour. Keep in mind, this is just a prototype. Goodyear is planning on having this ready by 2030. I don't know why it's going to take so long, probably because it's tough to do.
Yes, it's very hard.
A car that weighs 5,000 pounds that's doing turns and all this other stuff. Not only does it have to just be very efficient, not only does it have to feel good to the ride, not only does it have to be cheap enough, like there's so many factors, safety factors and so forth. So like this is not easy stuff.
Right.
Also, it has to make good business sense for them because keep in mind, what's one of the leading causes of needing new tires?
Pop.
Right.
No, that's a good point.
I mean, and when one tire goes, what do you usually end up doing? Oh, I got to change all 4 because now the treads don't match and blah, blah, blah. Right. So for them to go, hey, we're getting rid of that whole reason to change your tire, you might want to push that down the road. Because if your competition doesn't have it yet and they don't, then if you come up with non-pneumatic tires, are you really going to be able to charge that more for them?
Here's the thing. It's taken about 100 years to get tires to where they are now, to where you can go on a road trip and not worry that you're going to have a flat.
I know. I mean, Teslas don't even have a spare in them.
Right.
And I remember when I first got my, Sparky, the biggest question I got from many people was, where's the spare?
Right.
And I'd be like, there is no spare. There's no spare.
What are you doing? Tires have gotten so much better in just the past 50 years, but I mean, it's taken decades to develop tires to the point where they are now. Now, this is because you are trying to solve a hard problem, keeping 50 PSI in some cases contained within a rubber thing.
While you hit
bumps
potholes
and go over sometimes nails and whatnot. It's a tough, difficult problem. And airless solves a bunch of those problems, but it
actually introduces new ones.
A whole bunch. A lot of people have been saying like, oh, you're going to get snow in there. They are thinking of adding a little sidewall that basically doesn't have to do anything besides keep sticks and leaves out of your tires, because obviously if you get anything in there, that's why you balance your tires.
Right.
Because otherwise it goes...
Well, keep in mind, they're showing it open so that you know that it's...
Exactly. It looks cool. I will say it looks pretty cool.
Right.
And it wouldn't be that hard to like stop the car, pull the rock out, chuck it out. But
It would be getting full all the time.
all of those things, those little bendy things in the tire are going to have to work in all conditions.
And it has to be efficient. If it's not efficient, then you might as well go back to air.
Exactly. And there's a good chance that it's not going to be as efficient.
Right.
There's going to be plenty of great applications for this in terms of lots of different applications where you might pop a tire.
Right.
And you could definitely get away with being less efficient. There might even be better stability. So we might even be seeing this in like, I don't know, maybe racing in 10 years or something like that, or within 10 years, I think.
I feel like Fix-A-Flat has gone a long way to making it so that it's not as big a deal as it used to be. I mean, imagine back, if you go back to the 50s or something, if you got a flat on many roads, you were hundreds of miles from getting it fixed. Nowadays, cities are closer together. And AAA is amazing.
Awesome.
And then, you've got Fix-A-Flat, which means that if you carry a can of that in your car, you can hobble your way to getting, to a gas station and get it fixed. So I think all those things have made it so that a lot of people, if given the choice of this, just think for a second, like, yes, it seems really good when you see a video of it, but ask yourself this. If tomorrow Goodyear said you can have this NPT tire, it will cost 3 times what your existing tires cost. It won't be as efficient, but you won't have to worry about flats. I think a lot of people go, oh, really? And until you can get the price down to exactly the same or less, I'll keep doing what I'm doing. So that's, I think, one of their biggest things right now is they have to make this affordable. And ride quality. Right now, tires, what a difference it makes. If you ride on a tire with a lot of air in it versus a tire with no air in it practically, like, if you put in 21-inch tires,
right.
A lot of people choose the more air full tire just because they want a nicer ride.
I want more rubber.
So they've got to balance all that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complicated thing. It's something to definitely keep your eye on, because I think that they could make advances a lot quicker than like 100 years, like I was saying. But yeah, just be cognizant that, what if one of those little things breaks, or how do you change the tread, or
yeah, because let's talk about tread for a second. You're still the tread's still gonna wear out. You're still gonna need new tires. So it's not like.
Or is it the kind of thing where you bring it to the place and they just kind of slip the thing on, put a new thing on, and I don't know.
That'd be cool.
It would be cool. But yeah, how is that going to work? Also, right now, it's integrated with the wheel itself. So if you wanted very fancy, cool alloy wheels, you're out of luck.
That's a good point. I wasn't thinking about that.
I don't think that it makes too much of a difference if these are going to be going on like police cars, military vehicles, and the like. But I don't know. It's a very interesting topic. And
yeah, Michael Rashida, Goodyear's senior program manager, said, "We are excited to progress to this new phase of testing and stretch the imagination on what can be possible with airless tires. We have shown that Goodyear's NPTs can achieve highway speeds while also maintaining the dynamic handling required for a consumer vehicle, which is a meaningful milestone." So this kind of shows you that they're at the early stages. They are testing this right now with the Jacksonville Transportation Authority. So they have some airless tires on their AV shuttle. That'll be some good like in-field use. But yeah, we're at the real early stages. So I don't think you should be thinking like next year I'll be getting these on my car. It's going to be a while.
Don't be trying to stretch your tires through the winter just because you think you're going to get airless.
Thank you so much for being our patrons, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Now you know.